if you've got a big budget and plenty of time on your hands, then by all means spend a lot of time mixing stuff. But if you really, you've got to get this track done, and you want to get on with the next stuff, and you get it to a point where you're happy with it.
It's worth.
It's a very difficult. I mean, depending if you're doing the next Radiohead mix down, then just forget everything I've said because you're out of a job very quick. But for the purposes of what we do, we're doing general dance stuff. It's very simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. You get the general idea. If you're still kind of unhappy, then you just have to keep going until you are happy. But
you've got to bear in mind,
there's
there's nothing wrong with actually leaving a track and coming back to it. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with having a few bits and pieces on the go. I mean, we tend to find that that we'll be working on so many ideas at once, and then they'll all come together. Especially at the mix stage. So I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't want to hear. But there are no hard and fast rules on this. There is no rule book to this. There are basic techniques and skills that we all need to pick up and that everybody needs to work with. But once that is there, it's just kind of where you want to go really. And the key to this is communication with a lot of it. We work together because it gives us. We get the toing and froing. We can bounce ideas off each other very quickly. We can work like that. Doing it in isolation may work, but I mean, I would say that get your stuff out to other people. Get a community around you that you can keep talking about it and you can keep working, and you're learning all the time. I mean, the great thing about this is you learn every day. You're always picking up on something.
Yeah.
Whether you use it or not.
Plenty of people that give it the talk think they know everything. And the reality of the situation is they don't know anything. At the end of the day, you know what you know, and it doesn't mean that anybody. Some people have got golden ears. You can't knock that. Some people really are, but I mean, you've either got that or you haven't. You can learn it to a degree, but don't knock yourself. Don't ever knock yourself, because it's what sounds right to you that matters at the end of the day, and no one gives a shit what anybody else thinks. Just whatever sounds right to you, and if you're a heart of hearts, you know that it sounds good to you, then have the confidence with it. And if as long as people's criticism is positive, then it doesn't matter. We get knocks all the time, but we're not fussed because we know when we make mistakes. And you start to say, right, we didn't do that right, we should have done this. We do that all the time as well.
It's about learning from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you aren't going to get anywhere. And be prepared to make them. I mean, don't be scared of making a mistake. What the worst that's going to happen is you're going to blow your speakers. You know what I mean?
Which
actually, absolutely. Anyway, I said that. All right. So we've got the drums in now. We've got, we're at that stage where the drums are fairly there. Maybe we can apply a bit more reverb to them. Maybe we don't need to. At the moment we're working very much within the computer. We've brought everything out on the desk, and we do have a rack of outboard there that which at some point we'll get into putting it all through really.
So what we've done actually in the studio here is try to make everything as open-ended as possible. What we've done is we've made a little digital patch bay here, which allows, using Logic's in and out plugin, it allows us to use these effects processes here as plugins in Logic, which is the downside is you'll get a tiny bit of latency, but that's not really actually a problem because you can obviously rectify that once you've bounced it in or recorded it in. The great side, of course, is you've got some outboard. I mean, even some very cheap outboard units are so worth having. I mean, if you can extend your budget to it, just one outboard reverb or something like that will make a hell of a difference because it's going to sound utterly different. Even though using it digital, it's still going to sound different, and it's worth having to add an extra dimension. It means you don't have to rely on plug-in reverbs. You're not taxing your processor, and you'll find different ways of working. It's really worth doing. And we put this together.
For the technically minded, it's basically a video patch bay. So it was working on 75 ohm, which we use the SPDIF side of digital in here, basically because everything's got it. 75 ohm patch bay, the patch cords we got ready made from somewhere, and it's made a real difference. It means we've got the digital connectivity now. We've got the analog patch bays, which we've done, and as Al said, it is about keeping it as open-ended as possible. We can use this gear as plugins, or we can use it off the board. We're giving ourselves a flexibility, which means that although it can make it complicated, we've got our heads around this system, so we can go to anything and anywhere we want.
Actually, it was born out of necessity, really, because we were there saying, wouldn't it be great if we could use these as plugins? And the point felt, well, yeah, we can. Logic have given us the ability to do this, so rather than using everything off the board, we kind of felt that, like, for certain aspects, we didn't want to have to keep going through the board, because every time you go through the board, it's coming out of the board with the board sound on it. So we want to try and keep a purity up until the point where it comes to mix down, then give it all the sort of characters that it needs. But for this, it's really useful. What it also means is that we've got this little fellow over here, the mind print, and this is actually effectively the front end to the whole system. we use the SP diff out of this that goes into the sound cards.
Yeah.
So anything that gets recorded in goes through here first, but it's also got a digital in and out on it, which means we can use this as a plugin in Logic. And the extra thing about it is it's got an insert in it, which would effectively means that we can patch the Avalon into the insert here and use these as plugins in Logic as well. So it gives a real flexibility. Sometimes it gives too much flex. You get option paralysis. You just don't know what the hell to do, you know. So the best thing to do is stick with what you've done before, or maybe take a couple of days time out to just experiment and try recording things in a particular way. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's never wasted time in the studio ever. You can never waste the time. So for this, we'll probably, just for the sake of simplicity now, we'd probably just go straight, chuck everything, patch in everything into groups 1 and 2, and chuck all the drums through the Avalon just to show you what it does.
Okay. So we've now got all the drums grouped up. What we've done, they're coming out the board. We've got them all running through groups 1 and 2, like that, nicely. We then have the Avalon compressor, which is now patched in on our patch bay across the groups, which means we can now sort of oomph the sound up.
So, first thing we tend to do when using this is, if you want a bit of extra grunt, it's nice to give it a bit of extra input level. So it's got a little switch down here which was designed for us. We just push the input by 10 dB.
15.
So immediately you get a bit of extra fuzz, and one will turn it up a bit as you can. Gives a nice little bit of fuzz on it, a bit of crunch. Switch compressor in, and then just play around until you get a sound that you like.
Back the compression off, mate. Just boost. There we go. Nice.
So you can always reference it.
So something worth bearing in mind with gear like this is to always keep listening back to your original source signal. It's very, very easy to overdo it. We've got an EQ section here which is really useful as well. Little switch allows you here to put it before the compressor stage, but I think in this case we've made the compression we want, now we want to EQ it. Yeah.
So just as a general sort of idea, so before, after.
Okay, so now what we've basically done is we've got it where we wanted it. We've now recorded the drums in as a stem in this particular case, and then we can move on and try and get the bass to fit around it. Let's go. So route the bass out of a different output. There we have it.
You'll notice that we've got a few plugs running on this actually. If I take them all off, I can show you what it's like before and what it's like after. So that's what it is initially. It's like a sort of sine wave with a little knock at the beginning. So we've put a few plugs on it. Got this distortion here, which is